All right, so time to get to the debate right here. Shining Star College in Kubwa debating against themselves. Right here, we have given you the papers to know what side you're on, so you can open up and let us know what you would be for or against. Government-owned refineries should be privatized. I hope that you have an idea how this works. You would have 3 minutes for your opening, and the 3 minutes is shared between both of you, right? So you can come in anytime within that time frame. You have 3 minutes for your rebuttal and 3 minutes for your closing. So it's important that you take note of the time. If the bell goes off, you have a few seconds to complete that sentence you're on before the bell went up. So let's have you unveil those papers so we can know what side is going first. Yes.
Going to differ.
What's your name?
I'm DAKWOJI FARIDA.
Okay.
So I'm opposing the motion, which says government-owned refineries should be privatized.
Okay. That means that Tania.
Is proposing the motion.
There we go. Okay.
That means you're going first?
Yes, so we'll start with the side that proposing the motion that government-owned refineries should be privatized.
All right, so AUSTEN, Tania, and Umar Mujahid are proposing the motion, while DAKWOJI Farida and Jesse Ocholi are opposing the motion. And your time starts now.
In a country where billions of money is spent on turnaround maintenance of refineries who refuse to turn around, privatization is the only option to make sure that our refineries become a boosting energy to our economic development as a whole. Good day, Mr. Chairman, panel of judges, accurate timekeeper, and co-debaters. I am AUSTEN Tania. Together with me is and we are here to strongly support the motion which says that government-owned refineries should be privatized. Privatization is the transfer of ownership from government control to private control, while refineries are huge facilities where oil is converted to petroleum and other products like jet fuel. Now, privatization enables efficiency. How? Efficiency in the sense that our natural resources are used to the best of their best quality, to the best of their abilities. How? For example, the Dangote refinery produces over 650,000 barrels per day, while our 4 government refineries combined produces 445,000 barrels per day when they were in their peak era. Now, this shows that privatization enables efficiency in Nigeria, both in as can be seen in many sectors, like in the NLNG and the mining sector. They were privatized, and we can see how efficient they've been over the years. Furthermore, it enables accountability and transparency because these privatized companies work for profit. Yes, their motive is profit, but because their motive is profit, they will be more accountable. There will be structures to see that everybody is in charge of this person is in charge of this person is in charge of this. And when you don't do your work well, then you will be held accountable. Because here, the private companies depend on the consumers to patronize them so that they can be able to get their profits. While for government, the people depend on the government for their own commodities. Because now here's the difference: the consumers are depending on the government because the government is the sole producer. While for private companies are depending on the consumers. So which one do you think will be more efficient?
So it is a known fact that the government is not meant to be involved in business. It is supposed to carry out, so it has so many responsibilities which it's supposed to carry out, which in a country like Nigeria, the government is already battling with problems such as insecurity. So I don't think the government is the right person or right institution that is supposed to be given the opportunity to handle such refineries. Because when these refineries are privatized, they tend to make more profits because a private individual would always is profit driven. He will always want to get profit from his or her business. He wouldn't want to see where.
Thank you.
Okay. He wouldn't want to see where his business is lagging, going down. He would want to compete with other government refineries.
Speaking of the applause, eh? Okay, we'll let you have that.
So when the bell goes off, if you're mid-sentence, you're allowed to finish your sentence.
And we waited on you for a few seconds to do that, but you paused. For next time, ensure you finish that sentence so you can move on. All right? Thank you very much. And we're moving on now to the next team. DAKWOJI, Farida, and Jesse. Truly, you would have 3 minutes for your opening. Your time starts now.
Good day, moderator, my accurate timekeeper, the judges, my co-debaters, and my beautiful audience. Imagine a Nigeria where the control of our most important national resource is in the hands of private individuals. Isn't the thought scary? Is that the Nigeria that we really want? My name is DAKWOJI Farida, and with me here is Jesse Ocholi, here today to oppose the motion which states that government-owned refineries should be privatized. Now, Nigeria is one of the largest oil-producing countries in Africa, and we are a member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. And when I say we, I mean Nigeria and not any private company or individual. And although Nigeria produces a lot of crude oil and we still have to import fuel, does this mean that we have to transfer our refineries to private individuals? Absolutely not. Firstly, our crude oil and our refineries are a national asset and not private commodities. The refineries belong to the Nigerian people, and privatizing would mean transferring the ownership of these refineries to private individuals whose main motive is profit and not public welfare. Now, these two words start with the letter P, but another thing that starts with the letter P is polar opposites. Should we really think of transferring the ownership of our refineries to profit-driven individuals? Absolutely not. Now, next, fuel prices may go up if we privatize. Privatizing means that fuel prices will go up and subsidies from the government will be gone. And these private individuals don't care whether we're already battling with inflation. Now, will privatization reduce suffering or actually increase it? Moving on, let's talk about the power sector. Now, the power sector was privatized a long time ago, and after the privatization, it was only 2 of the generation companies, which are popularly known as GenCos, that were actually privatized. Even though it was only 2 that were privatized, how much has this done for Nigerians? Nothing. Now, I'd like to say that our problem is not government ownership. It is actually poor management. Let's work together to fix this management instead of just selling our refineries, so that even if we fix this problem, we can employ it in other sectors.
Furthermore, the issue with our current government-owned refineries is within, and those issues can be solved, and we can actually reform the system rather than transferring ownership to private firms and individuals, which I would say is unnecessary and harmful to the economy. Because why should we give up the backbone of our economy to private individuals and rely on other sectors of the economy? One might argue that these other sectors could generate revenue for the government, but they have not proved to be as efficient as the petroleum and oil sector.
Okay.
That's your time. Okay. Congratulations. Well done. Okay. It's Shining Star against Shining Star, and we've explained the reasons why. It was a function of how many schools put in entries versus the number of entries that we had. So just in case you didn't listen in yesterday and you're wondering, why is one school going head to head? Well, that's the reason why. They had probably the highest number of entries and also the highest number of people who made it through. So they have finished their opening and presentation rounds. We've had Jesse back up, DAKWOJI Farida, and we've had Mujahid back up AUSTEN, TANIA, and we're about to get into the rebuttals. Now remember, guys, the rules for the rebuttal is that you are to focus on your opponent's points and demolish them as best as you can. If you have anything else to add, be sure that you are done with that first before you move on to add any new points. All right? I'll hand you over to the timekeeper.
And your time starts now.
Standing on existing protocols, my name remains AUSTEN TANIA, and with me is Umar Mujahid Algi, and we're here to continue our arguments. But before that, we would like to refute some of our opponents' points. First, she said that Nigeria is an organization of OPEC, Organization of petroleum exporting countries. But Nigeria doesn't export petroleum products. Nigeria exports crude oil and then imports the petroleum products, which make fuel prices to be high. So how is that any benefit to Nigeria as a country when it can't even reach the production quotas that OPEC gives to it? Next, she said that ownership of refineries by profit-driven individuals will lead to high prices of fuel in the market. But when we give these private refineries a chance to function, and there are so many private refineries, then the prices of fuel would be regulated by the market forces of demand and supply. So this fuel will still be in the reach of the consumers, and they will still get constant fuel and not the scarcity which we experience most times in the country. As well, and she talked on power sector, which is quite not giving us what we want, even though it is privatized. But let's look at the mining sector. Let's look at the gas sector. They are privatized, and they're giving us much more output than they would have given us if they were only government owned.
Standing on the existing protocol, I would like to emphasize the fact that we have just 4 refineries which the government claims to be working in Nigeria, which we have 2 in Rivers, 1 in Kaduna, and 1 in Warri. So, and we just have 1 private refinery in Nigeria. Isn't it a shame that upon all the 4 refineries we have in Nigeria owned by government, and we have 1 private refinery, isn't it a shame that these 4 refineries can't still beat the production capacity of the Dangote refinery of Nigeria? Isn't it a shame? Is up to 4 refineries, are they a joke? That's so embarrassing to this our beloved country. Then you spoke about high prices. High prices, okay. So let's say all these government-owned refineries have been privatized. If they have been privatized, surely all these private individuals who they are going to give these companies to would not want to let their people down, because they use their sweat, they use their money to purchase these refineries. And a CEO or a private individual always wants to see that his company is competing with others. He talks about high prices. So when they are competing, there will obviously be a breakdown in price instead of hike in price.
Rebuttal part 1 done, and we're moving on very quickly to hear from the opposing team.
All right, Austin, Tanya, and Mujahid.
They
All right,
just
that's
finished,
you.
yeah.
So we're moving on to you next. DAKWOJI Farida and Jesse Ocholi. Let's get to your rebuttal. Your time starts now.
My name remains DAKWOJI Farida, and with me here is Jesse Ocholi. Now, to start my rebuttals, firstly, my opponent mentioned efficiency, that the private individuals are more efficient, the government is inefficient, and that transferring to private individuals will make the refining sector to be more efficient. But let's tell ourselves the truth. If a school performs poorly, do we sell the school? If a hospital lacks equipment, do we sell the hospital? No. We fix the problems. We go to the root of the problem, fix the system, and fix the management. She also mentioned the profit motive, that I said that the profit motive was what the private individuals are after. And yes, this is true. Even if the profit motive is not what they're after, let's take a look at what's going on in the Middle East. Now, a fifth of the world's oil passes through the Strait Hormuz ocean, and then right now that place has been shut down. So we might have to fall back on the Dangote refinery, which might decide to increase prices and induce artificial scarcity. Let's also talk about what my opponent Mujahid said. He talked about responsibilities that are too much for the government. The government didn't ask anyone to relieve them of their burden. We elected them, so they should be held accountable for all they were elected for. And now, if privatization elected for. Now, if privatization goes wrong, will we blame the private individuals or the people who push for privatization, or we blame the government? All the blame always goes onto the government and not the individuals who would push for privatization. And she also talked about the mining and the gas industry, which has already been privatized. Are these industries as big as the power sector? Absolutely not. The refinery is one that can be compared with the power sector. And if our power sector has failed under privatization, that means our refineries have a high chance of failing too.
And concerning the topic my opponents brought up about prices and private companies not wanting to let people down, as he said. Now, you can't always be assured that their best interest is in the people. A lot of times, most times, it's in the shareholders and not actually the people. And let's bring up scarcity, for example. If petroleum is scarce, then buyers, the people, will not have a choice. They won't have any other choice than to buy from these private individuals. And they could take advantage of that fact by raising prices as well.
Okay, and to conclude, I'd like to say once again state that the problem is not government ownership, but it is poor management, and the solution is reform and not resale.
Thank you. All right. One way or the other, Shining Star is featuring on one side opposing the motion that government-owned refineries should be privatized, and on the other side opposing, and they have just finished with the rebuttal stage. We're moving on now to the closing. It is important that you make use of these 3 minutes to introduce perhaps any new points that you may not have mentioned earlier on, or perhaps emphasized on something else that you felt you needed to elaborate on. So use your 3 minutes wisely. You're giving it way too much time. Unfortunately, we can't cash out.
I wish I could, but I mean, that's okay.
Okay.
So we're going to get to that right now. You can still watch live on YouTube and Facebook at Nigeria Info Abuja. The school right here is Shining Star College in Kubwa on both teams, and government-owned refineries should be privatized as a topic that they are currently debating. It's time to get to the start of the closing for this particular debate, and your time starts now.
Standing on existing protocols, I am here to conclude the debate and also to reboot some of her points. Privatization is a necessary action. It's not just a policy that we need to deliberate on. It's a necessary action. During the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo, he brought about the establishment of one of Nigeria's government-owned refineries. But during his democratic rule again, he was the same person that moved for the privatization of these refineries. If the person who brought about the establishment of one of these government-owned refineries would be the same person who moved for the privatization of these refineries, I think that can support my motion that privatization is indeed a necessary action. My opponents talked on the government being held accountable for their actions, but then how are we seeing our government officials being held accountable with due punishment for all the corruption that we have been seeing in the system for years? They are not being held accountable. And if our government is still not ready to fix the system, so we Nigerians, as enterprising as we are ready to begin our own private refineries, which I believe will contribute both revenue to the government in form of tax, will contribute good quality fuel to our citizens, and would also bring profits to the companies themselves.
Standing on the existing protocol, my opponent said, are we going to sell the refineries? We possibly have to sell the refineries. It's very obvious that we have to sell the refineries. If we don't sell them, then we're just going backwards. We keep pushing backwards if we don't sell this refinery. How would four government-owned refineries be beaten by just one private refinery? It's very obvious that we have to sell this. We have to privatize these refineries.
And
then he spoke about burden relief. If we don't relieve this burden, then Nigeria will go into a lawless state. Don't you see people when prices go up? You thought about prices going up. You see people queuing up at filling stations for weeks, days. Some people sleep when they're supposed to be at their workplace. They keep on sleeping just to get fuel so that they can perform their daily activities. That's not fair. we just have to privatize it so that it's gonna bring about betterment of Nigeria's society. If not, we just keep going backwards. And then I would like to talk about accountability. Inside all of these four government-owned enterprises, I don't think there's anyone that you bring before the law and they'll be able to defend themselves, or they'll be able to like tell you how those government funds are being used appropriately. But if it's a private organization, you see that they are able to defend themselves. They are able to like produce how that funds are being managed or used.
Thank you very much. All right, let's get to the concluding part of the closing. DAKWOJI and Ocholi will be wrapping up.
And your time starts now.
Okay, so to wrap everything up, my opponent mentioned the Dangote Refinery. Even though the Dangote Refinery is producing about 650,000 barrels per day, don't you think we have something to learn from the Dangote Refinery? If there's a crack in our wall, is it enough to just place a poster over the crack? No, you have to go to the root of the problem and find a way to fix that crack so that it doesn't get bigger. Now, if you can fix corruption and accountability problems in our privatizations, in our refineries, we can also implement it in other places too. Now, the government is earning revenue, and so much revenue from our refineries, right? From our refineries, and as other foreign nations do, okay, other foreign nations also have their refineries, and they decide to keep things like this, which are their national assets, to ensure security and economic development. Now, imagine if, God forbid, but imagine if there's a national crisis in Nigeria and private individuals will decide to hike prices. What do we do then? Now, my opponent also said that we should relieve the government. But saying we should relieve the government, is that holding the government accountable? Absolutely not. We're still making it more corrupt.
And as my opponent said concerning taxes, the government, which is the government taxing oil, private oil companies, that wouldn't be as efficient as the government itself owning those refineries. Because although taxing still generates revenue for the government, it still cuts off a huge part of it as well. And it concentrates profits in the hands of private individuals and not the government.
Okay, now to conclude, private individuals have done a lot, but it is obvious that exploitation can come in. Rather, the government, instead of privatization, the government should ensure adequate funds are pushed to rehabilitate our refineries and monitor these funds. And we should also give a very big shout out to Nigerian Info for giving us a chance to enlighten people about privatization and also government earning. Well, I'd like to leave with a question. Should we leave that which is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy to private individuals whose motive is profit and not public welfare? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and big shout out to you all too for doing such a great job marshalling out all the points, both in favor of the motion and opposing the motion. Itodo,
Yes.
sometimes they have me thinking maybe we should bring them on as guest analysts to
Perhaps.
have this conversation sometimes.
And with all the timelines they gave, the points they gave, and who did what, who's responsible for what, and why privatization is either a good thing or a bad thing, I believe they'll make for a credible guest.
It remains for...
Don't mind.
You don't mind?
Oh, okay. You have some research to do, serious research. Well, we'll bring
I
you.
mean, they've done some, so...
Maybe some more.
Well, yes. All right, it remains for the judges to determine if you were able to do enough to get you through to the next round of the competition. But well done thus far. We still have one more analysis, or should I put it now? How would I put it? Our diction judge. Maybe, I feel like even right now you should be scoring me on diction. I feel like I messed up that sentence right there. But Mary Olivia Osai is here. Let's hear from her concerning this debate.
Started on so we'll start with you, Tanya. It is your Tanya, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't say billions of money, all right? You can say a huge amount of money, billions of naira, billions of dollars, all right? So it is both, and not boat, because when you say boat, you're referring to a boat. Privatized. Now, I see that all of you kept missing that word because it is derived from the word private. So it's not privatized or privatization. It's private. The A has the sure sound, the weak sound. So privatized. Privatize, privatization. It is consumers and not consumers. Think, this, that, your TH sounds. You kept missing them. You used T and D instead. Embarrassing is the word, not embarrassing. Purchase and not purchase. Appropriately and not appropriately. Farida, it is resources and not resources. Opponent, at some point you said opponent. I saw that you tried, but at some point you said opponent. I put that down. So it's opponent, it is development and not development, all right? It is they, not there. You were using there instead of they, They. So they, not there. And that's it. Over to you, Sunyin. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the feedback. We've got some comments on the live feed right here while we wait for the judges to collate and sending the results through our officer right there. Let's look at this one on Facebook, I believe, or no, X, YouTube, I believe. Brilliant display of knowledge. Keep it up. Good luck, shining star. You're wonderful, is what Salawu Ishaka says on our YouTube.
Okay, that's pretty much what we have by the way of comments. But while we're waiting on the judges' results, maybe we can hear from the students themselves. How do you feel? How was it?
Were you taking it easy on your
Yeah,
your
at some
mates?
point I
'Cause,
was suspecting a little.
they were taking it too easy on that.
No? You sure? Okay.
Is that it? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure.
Because it just feels like if it were to be a different school, there would have been a different energy. But like, oh, I'm just with my friends, so let's just keep it.
It was,
I just
it was
wish I
very
had- wish I had more
conversational.
time.
You wish
you
you had
wish
more time.
deal
Oh,
with
wow.
Oh, well, let's see if you might just have more time, say in the next round. The results are here, and the billionaire himself is here to deliver.
Kindly proceed
Yes.
with sealed and hopefully signed.
All right, then, let's get into it. It's Shining Star against Shining Star. I would very much like to avoid that going into the next round, but it will depend on how well they have done. Now, we have the team of DAKWOJI Farida and Jesse Ocholi. I'm going to be reading out your results first. For the aggregate presentation, you scored 8. For your aggregate rebuttal, you scored 7. For your aggregate closing, you scored 5 points. And for your diction, you have a total of 4. Oh, I skipped one. Aggregate style, you have a total of 18 points out of 30. Okay. So that's 8 for presentation, 7 for rebuttal, 5 for your closing, 18 for style, and 4 points for diction, bringing your total to 42 points. There we go. All right. Well done to you guys. Now let's move on to the second team from Shining Star, AUSTEN, TANIA, ably supported by Umar Mujahid. And for you both, your presentation aggregate is 7 points. For your rebuttal aggregate, you have 4.5 points. On your aggregate closing, you have 4.5 points. For style, you went away with 15 out of 30 points. And for your diction, you scored 3 points, bringing your aggregate total to 34. So with that, we say well done and congratulations to Team DAKWOJI Farida for taking away this one today. Well done. Well done to you both and congratulations. You'll be hearing word from us either way.